I am Danna and I am the young investor for Springers Mexico, an international organization focused on raising girls, young women lives in aspirations by putting them in contact with adolescent women. She is from Culiacan, Sinaloa, and many girls and teenagers who dream of going to outer space think of her as a reference. Her name is Carmen Felix, who was the first analog astronaut. Dear Carmen, it's an honor to have you here. How are you today?
Oh, I'm great. I'm so happy and honored to be invited for this interview, and I'm so happy to share my story with all the audience.
And I am very happy that you have accepted my invitation because I know that you have a lot of interviews and a lot of things to do it, and it is a great and it is fantastic that you accepted my invitation. So we start with the first question. Do you remember what you like to do and which were your hobbies when you were my age?
Yes, I loved going out during the night to look at the sky. I was always amazed with questions about what will be, life in other planets. What will be, the components of the stars? What, thinking about the astronauts that walk on the moon. That was always my inspiration because I was always thinking if they could do it, then why no one else have done it like in a normal constant way. That was my question. I wanted to see people going to the moon like taking a plane nowadays. So I always dream about having an agency focused on space in my country and seeing space travel even more common in the future. That was my dream, and I loved going also camping. I loved going with my family to the beach to camp and just admire the nature and the sky.
Yes, of course. I like to much these activities. Principally, when I go wherever I want, for example, a park or to vacations with my family, I always have my telescope, and I enjoy very much see the stars and the moon. Well, we continue with the other question. That is, at school, what was your favorite subject, and were you a good student?
Yes, I was a good student. I was not perfect. I must say that it's not about you being excellent and perfect in absolutely everything. You need to allow yourself to discover what's your passion and then do your best. I think all of us, we have certain aptitudes and certain things that we do it easier than others. So we need to find what is that we are more aligned or more talented to do. So for example, for me, I love chemistry. I love history for some reason. I love to learning about older civilizations, and even for example, here in Mexico, we have the Mayan culture. And for me, it was fascinating to learn that they had an observatory, that they already knew so much about the sky, even in those times where apparently there was no much technological advances, but they already knew so much about our solar system and planets and so on. So for me, it was always fascinating to understand that. And I guess chemistry and history.
Yes, I like to much these subjects too. For example, history. We sometimes think that it doesn't have a relation with space, but for example, the wars were very important. For example, the first man to arrive to the moon. So it is very important. And for example, for me, another subject that I like too much is physics, and chemistry I like too. The other question is, girls and young women always have a role model, a scientist who inspire us. For example, one of these role model for me is you. But who was the role model that inspired you?
For me, when I started, it was very difficult for me because back then there was no much women as role models. So I knew that there had been a few women astronauts, and I'm talking about 20, 30 years back then when I started to look for women role models. So I knew that there had been one Mexican astronaut back then, which was Neribela, Rodolfo Neribela, but there were no many women that had dedicated her life to space. There was some astronomers, of course, like Julieta Fierro in Mexico. But I think I was looking more as women astronauts. So I guess when I grew up, one of the role models that I still look up to is the astronaut Nicole Stott. And she's actually, she became my friend, and I had some a closeness with her. So I admire a lot about her, all her career, but also how she combined her personal life as a mom, as a wife, and as a professional. And she even managed to, fly to the International Space Station several times, and even did some extravehicular activities. So yeah, she's amazing, and she's one of my role models.
Yes, of course. As I say, there are few women that is involved in this topic, that is the astronomy, or yes, in science. But for example, nowadays, and when the time pass, we can find more like you, that nowadays you are one of the role models that a lot of girls that like the science want to do the same that as you. So it is very 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 interesting. Well, we continue with the other question, that is, what have been the obstacles that you have faced in your career, principally because you are a woman, and as we know, when we are women, sometimes the doors close to us. So I want to know what was these obstacles.
Yeah, I think we still can see that the space industry, and mainly in many of the science areas, the predominance of the employees and professionals working on those areas are men. So it's still something that is predominant, but it's changing. For me, I guess, when I started, because I started very young, I was 12 years old when I started to research everything, and then I was 17 when I was on my first space conference, and then I was 25, 26 when I started with NASA back then. So for me, it was I found it a little bit challenging to kind of prove myself every time they were asking me, oh, but you're Mexican. And it was it was not common for them to hear about a Mexican person, but also more the fact that I was a woman. So they were always asking, like, so why, how you, or how is that you are doing these kind of things? I felt like I needed to prove myself that I knew the topic and that I was capable of do things, and that I was capable and of holding the place that I had in that moment. And then also, I guess it started since engineering, because I found myself, I studied electrical and telecommunications engineer, and then I could find myself in several of my classes where I was the only woman in a room of 50 people. So it was always, that I was hearing comments about, like, oh, you are the only woman. Oh, but like women are not made for engineering, or like there are other careers for more related to women. So it was just trying to block that comments out, and just trying to focusing on what I wanted to do and why I wanted to do it, having my goals very clear, and just not not trying to focus on the fact that because I'm a woman it's more difficult. I was just trying to do my job and like proving that I was capable of doing, and that was something that helped me, because when people see that you give results, that you are capable of doing your job, then they can respect you, and then you can start to grow in the industry. It's not easy, because I can see that men, let's say, as example, or the story that I'm mentioning, for me, I can see the difference, that they don't need to prove their place in a company or in a job, which is different for women. So it's always kind of like a subtle kind of proving or fighting on, like, hey, I'm here, I'm an engineer, I also can contribute, really good ideas, and I can also perform and do a good job. So yeah, it's a little bit of a challenge, but it's not impossible, and it's changing, and I'm very happy to see that at the international level there are always more and more and more women, and also in Mexico the area is also opening for accepting and welcoming more women.
Yes, of course. For example, we had the career of aerospace, so it is very important to open the doors for Mexico. And as you say, you only don't have the opportunities, or you only have obstacles for we women. So it was too for we Mexican, because sometimes when we talk about Mexicans, we are not recognized in the signs, and we always think of American. And if you go out with for example, United States, if you are Mexican, and if you too are women, your opinions or your recommendations can't be afforded, because the people don't listen to you. So it is very important, and more that you and it's important to ignore these commentaries, and if you have a goal, you have to continue. I like too much these words that you say. The other question that I like to ask you is, what is the most surprising thing that you have done or learned?
The more impressive thing?
Yeah, surprising.
I will say that I always dreamt about becoming an astronaut, and I think that I'm working on it, and I'm very close to reaching that dream. So I guess it's just I will say not surprising for the rest of the people, but it's surprising for myself, in an internal way, that I have been able to overcome a lot of obstacles that I have been facing. Not because I'm a woman, but like in my life there have been a lot of obstacles that I feel like I have been able to overcome and continue with this path. And I guess one of the most beautiful things that I have been able to do in this journey is to inspire other girls and women to really believe in themselves and go ahead and fight for their own dreams. And that is something that fills me a lot, and that makes me feel that I'm adding something good for the younger generations.
Yes, because sometimes when we have a dream, sometimes we don't think that we are able to 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 be the thing that we like to do, but only we need some inspiration or some role models, and it is very fantastic that you inspire a lot of girls and young women to involve in this area, and it is not necessary to be uh, to be older or to be men for reach all our goals that we want. The other question that I like to ask you is about your analog mission. How was your experience in the analog mission of the simulation of the red planet Mars?
Yeah, I have done several analog missions in different capacities and different roles. My first one was in 2011, and I was the role I was having, it was as an engineer, and I was doing some tests on a rover. And that allowed me to work in a team full of scientists, people that were developing spacesuits, doctors that were looking at the biomedical data, and also some investigators, principal investigators that were looking at some data from the soil that we were taking some samples. This analog was in Rio Tinto, Spain. And from there, I also participated in other analog missions. Each of them has been very different, because the role I had in each of them was always from different perspectives. In Poland, I was part of the Mission Control Center, which was in the management roles. So I was in charge of planning the whole mission, selecting the crew, overviewing the whole schedule for the analog astronauts, planning every single detail for the 2-3 weeks simulation. And I also participated in another one as part of the psychological aspect of the mission that was running in Russia. This analog was in the name was 520 Mars days. So that was 6 men, 6 people, 6 people that were doing an analog mission for 520 days without going out, and missing normal things, being able to have apple fresh or a banana fresh and being able to eat it. And this is the type of thing that you start missing after several weeks of being in isolation and eating dry food, and not being able to communicate with your family in as we normally do. So there are little things that you start missing and have a lot of impact in your mood, and also in your psychology. So yeah, it was very, very interesting. And from the part of the experiments, it was really nice to perform and really have your days planned ahead and experience really how life on Mars will be as an astronaut in the future. The type of exercise, the type of care that you need to have for yourself, but also the type of aptitudes that you need to have as an engineer or as a chemistry or as a biologist, to be able to grow your own food on Mars, to be able to fix your own rovers, and to fix every single problem that can arise during a Mars mission. You need to be very capable. So yeah, it's a whole experience, and I'm happy and grateful that I have been able to participate in so many analog missions in so many different capacities.
Also sounds very interesting, principally because you have participated in very different missions, and in the missions you have different roles. So it sounds very interesting. And for example, the the change that you have to living in a space a lot of time and eating different fruit, that that sometimes it tastes strange at the first. So it is very, very interesting, the things that you have explained. We continue with the other question, that is, if you travel back in time, do you like to change something, and what would you like to change?
I think a lot of people dream about going back in time and change things, and of course I also have think in certain moments of my life, what if I have done something different? But I have learned that you need to accept how things went, because even if you go back in time and change something, it can have an effect to change something that you might have taken for granted that you have in your present. I will say that if I will say you give me the chance, and if it's possible, I will not change anything. I might just be able to kind of give a couple of advices to my younger self. Not really change, but just give an advice of, believe in yourself, and you will going to make it. You will be able to achieve your dreams, and believe, and just enjoy life. That will be that will be all. I will not really change anything, because even if I have regret so many things, I believe I have learned, and that's the important thing, just to learn from our mistakes.
Yes, of course, because the things that pass are very important to the present. The mistakes, the things that we reach is the result of the person that nowadays we are. And to end this great interview,
Exactly.
technology is rich. Well, you want to say something else?
No, that's exactly what you say. It's like the mistakes you have done in the past is what makes you and how you are right now. So that's the important thing.
Yes, of course, I am completely agree with you. And to end this great interview, I'd like to ask you, well, as we know the technology is reaching us, and there are more women interested in the space field. How do you see the space career for Mexican women in the next years?
Oh, things are becoming very interesting. Um, I I cannot say a lot of details that I will love to say right now because there are projects that are happening right now and that um, they will come true in the near future. I just can say that it's very very exciting for women to be in the space sector right now. Um, have so much access and so many opportunities that in the past we didn't have. And we should be thankful for all the fighters and warriors that really fight hard to give us the right and be able to reach positions of power, to make decisions that can change our world for the better. But I really feel that in Mexico, opportunities for women, especially in the space sectors, are opening up. We already have one of the first forums of women representing different areas of the space sector, and we're able to talk to the Congress to express our points of view and to give certain advices for them who are the ones making the laws that will allow Mexico to do more and better things for the space sector. I think a lot of great things are coming up.
Yes, of course. I completely agree with you. And I think that it is all for this interview. Thank you very much for your time and your space for this interview. I like too much listen you, and as I say, you are one of my role model. And in the future, I like to be like you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and I wish you all the best in your future and in your career and in your professional life. Thank you so much.